Recording in progress. Hi class. In this video, we're going to go over your topic 3 assignment, instructional strategies. In this assignment, you're going to be looking at starting to think about the instructional strategies that you can create aligned to a specific learning standard and objective. You're going to be looking at the anticipatory set, a teacher-centered approach, and a student-centered approach. So for this assignment, there is a template. So you're going to want to use this instructional strategies chart template that you can find over here under topic 3. And there's 2 parts. You have the chart, and then you're going to end with a reflection. So let's take a look at that chart. Okay, so here's the chart. It has both a English language arts instructional strategy and then a math one. And so for each of these, you're going to choose a math standard and a math objective. You're going to write a math objective related to that standard. You can use your previously used ELA and math standards that you used on both your topic 1 and or topic 2 assignments. If I did give you feedback that asked you to refine them, or I gave you examples what they should look like, I do expect to see that these objectives are getting closer to my examples or looking a little bit refined from that first version that you gave me in topic 1 or topic 2. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and choose my math standard. Let's start with the standard I used, the same one that I used. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and grab this one, 3MDC5, and I'm going to put that onto our chart. Okay, there we go. So we want to recognize area as an attribute of plane figures and understand concepts of area measurement. And if you remember the last time I used it, it does have 2 substandards to this, with looking at unit squares, having 1 square area of unit, and then a plane figure should be covered without gaps or overlaps. I'm going to include both of those parts just because they are important parts to this standard. It really gives me that specific or specificity, hard word to say right now, that I'm looking for. So part A and part B are both here as well. Okay, so I'm going to write a learning objective from my standard. And we always like to start with students will. We make it 1 concise sentence. So students will understand and apply area measurement by covering rectangles or rectilinear figures. Rectilinear, ooh, it's spelling figures. There we go. With square inch tiles and measuring the area. Okay, and some of the enduring understandings I'm going to make sure that they are covering is that they do know that you can't have any gaps or overlaps. So that's going to be something I look for when I'm assessing students. And then in addition, making sure that they call it a unit square or 1 square unit. That square is an important part when they represent it. So I might want to include that. Students will understand apply area measurement by covering rectilinear figures with square inch tiles and measuring the area representing it in square. Making sure that that's there so I can be very specific. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and look at what activities or instructional strategies I want to do here. So the first one is the anticipatory set. Now this part of the lesson is really just a very short portion, and it doesn't start the teaching yet. The biggest mistake I see in many students in all my classes is they start showing a video and teaching students about the concept in the anticipatory set. This is just how are you going to get them excited for learning and seeing what they already know about the topic. And so it could be as simple as a question, showing a short little video clip to get them excited about it. But it's very short and it's not teaching yet. So if I show a video clip, it's not showing them how to determine area. I'm just trying to get them excited for learning about area. So here, often I like to ask questions. So maybe I'll ask students is, have you ever had to get tile or carpet in your home? So, okay, how did they determine how much to buy? So it could be as simple as this. I'm seeing if they know something about that, but then maybe they don't feel excited about it. Maybe this isn't engaging enough for them. So maybe I'm going to give them a background on, they're going to get to create their own. So you will get to create your own treehouse and design the flooring and decor. How will you know how much flooring to buy? So by switching that just a little bit and giving them something to get excited about, like creating their own tree house, and then asking them, how will you know how much flooring to buy? It'll get me that background information, and now they're excited to learn. That's all an anticipatory set is. It is not starting the lesson yet. It's just that engaging way to get them excited for the learning that they're going to have. All right, so then you go into your teacher-centered approach. Now, how am I going to teach or directly instruct students to be able to measure the area of a rectilinear figure like I put in my objective? Notice how my objective is more specific than the standard. Like I didn't tell me what type of plane figures to use, but I chose a rectilinear figure, which is multiple rectangles put together because I thought that would make a nice, it's easy to measure area. It doesn't have any things that are cut off because there's no diagonals to it. And then it's more complex than just a rectangle as well. So my teacher-centered approach might be I'm going to give an activity in which I model it. So maybe I will show students a floor plan, and explain what the area of the floor plan means. And maybe I'm going to color the area of the kitchen to show them this inside portion represents area. And then I'm going to continue writing this up in a detailed manner. So then I'm going to continue this activity, make it detailed so everyone understands it. And then I'll talk about square units. I'll talk about modeling. I'm using tiles to find the area. And then I'll talk about representing the area in square units. And this one is square units and meaning area measurement. We have length times width, so it makes a square. So I'll go into all of these things and how I'm going to model it. And then here's my student-centered approach, an inquiry-based learning activity. Now, an inquiry-based learning activity is going to be something where students are exploring how to find the area themselves, something where I say, hey, here's your treehouse, or here's your space. You need to find the area for me, and I'm not going to model it for you, and I'm not going to show it to you. So students will use graph paper to draw their treehouse designs. And I'm going to say they must use lines to make rectilinear figures. Because if they don't use the lines, they're going to end up cutting those squares and halves and quarters, and then it's going to be harder for them to find measurements. So I'm going to give them this constraint that there can't be any diagonals. They need to follow the lines on there to make their treehouse design. And so I'm going to go into detail on exactly what this lesson or this activity will look like. And then after they draw, they will use, and this will depend on the size of my graph paper. If I use inch size graph paper or centimeter size graph paper, which tool I use to have them measure it. They will find the area using inch tiles, and then I would continue explaining that. And then they'll represent the area, and then find flooring materials, find flooring that they want for their treehouse. This is what makes it fun. Is being able to go like the Home Depot website and find the flooring they like. And then I can push the math even further by saying, okay, you told me your area was this many square inches. We're going to use feet for that. So how much is it going to cost you for the cost of that flooring you picked? So I could even take it in even further where they can find the cost of the flooring. That would match another standard. So if I was going to take it with this kind of step further with finding the cost of the flooring, I would probably want to add a standard up here as a substandard of this. Okay, so this is an example. It's not complete. I want more detail. I want you to finish that. Give me that step by step where it paints a picture in my head or anyone who reads its head of what exactly students will do in that activity. The final activity you'll do is this student-centered cooperative learning. You notice that this floor plan was not something that they were doing together. It was an individual activity. So now what can students do for a cooperative learning activity with this standard? So now maybe I'm going to have them do some sort of thing where they work together. And so it could be where they do some sort of card activity or some sort of game where they play together. So let's say we'll do a game where students flip over a card. How about 2 numeral cards? And they use the square tiles to build a figure with the given area on the numeral cards. So if they flip over 24, then they'll create a 24-inch, squared inch, squared figure. And then they'll compare and discuss how their figures are the same and different. So if I had 24-inch tiles, I could make my figure look a lot different than your figure. And so by having them both do it, they can look at each other's and be like, oh, yours is 24 tiles, but shaped like that. And mine's 24 tiles, but shaped like that. So that could be one way. And then this would be a really great way to see gaps and overlaps. Like when they're measuring the area, do they have gaps and overlaps? And I'll be able to help them with, making sure that their figures are measured properly and don't have those gaps and overlaps. So that could be one activity that I just came up on the fly, but you could do a lot of other things. I really like to see students doing games together, doing activities together, doing sorts together. Worksheets are my least favorite thing. They're not very fun for kids, and they can get really, um, I don't know, they get bored of worksheets. So when you do something just like flipping over cards and then creating your own, it gets them away from that worksheet and keeps them engaged in the lesson. So then you'll do part two where you write your reflection. So let's go look at the assignment directions for that. All right, so part two says write a 250 to 500 word reflection on the instructional strategies in the chart. And you're going to discuss these three things. Remember, your reflections should be a paragraph form, well written. You want to use your graduate students. I want to see good academic writing when you're writing these reflections. So, first question is, how do these strategies lend themselves to creating student engagement and promoting learning in the classroom? So the engagement is going to be a big one, just like I was talking about right now. Like playing a game over a worksheet is way more engaging. In addition, give me examples of exactly what you're doing in there, and then how is it still promoting learning at the same time? Then, how are they appropriate for achieving your learning goals? And so you heard me talking when I was looking at the chart about how part two of the standard says no gaps or overlaps. And so I can talk about how this activity can make me pull out when they have gaps and overlaps when they're building their figures. Or I can have them look at, are they using unit squares proper, calling it a square unit or representing it properly when they do either one. And so I want to pay attention to those standards and how I'm really focusing in on those standards when I'm developing my activities. And then how will you use your findings in your professional practice? So what are you going to apply to that future teaching practice of yours? Let's take a quick look at that rubric so you know what you're graded on. So you do need to use research citations as part of that. So anything that you do have on that reference page, make sure that you have an in-text citation in the bulk of the work. So in that, um, either here where you got the strategy from, you can have it, as well as in your reflection. So when you say that doing a game is more engaging for students, you can cite where you got that information from or someone who supports that claim that you just made. All right, so we're going to look at, do you have a properly aligned objective? Is the first one, and then your anticipatory set. Is it in-depth description? Not just a little clear description like we have here, but the more detail you give, the closer you'll be to receiving target. If you give me real vague descriptions, you're down here. And then if it doesn't match your standard, it would be inappropriate. Then you have each of those sections that are graded from your template, the teacher-centered approach, the student-centered approach, and then you have your cooperative learning activity, and then your reflection. So pretty well aligned to the template. If you have any questions over this assignment or need any assistance, please don't hesitate to reach out. I am here to support you. Have a nice day.